is Will Morris, and I'm the host of AOMA VOICES, a radio show dedicated to the communities surrounding AOMA Graduate School of Integrative Medicine. With me today is Sean Hanna, who's serving as the Military Peer Network Director here in the state of Texas. Sean, what have you been up to lately?
Directing the Military Veteran Peer Network.
That's great. How'd you end up there?
I was practicing Chinese medicine as part of the Hope for Heroes program at the Samaritan Center here in Austin.
What is Hope for Heroes?
That's the military and veteran and family member counseling and integrative medicine program at the Samaritan Center. And so they operate under a fund from the Texas Veterans Commission to do just that: acupuncture, biofeedback, neurofeedback, and clinical counseling services for military members and their families.
So these are all available to veterans of the military here in the Austin area, and I assume elsewhere as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Fund for Veterans Assistance from the Texas Veterans Commission funds other agencies, but the Samaritan Center is here in Austin.
That's great. Let's return to the original plan, which was to understand your current roles and responsibilities and how you ended up there.
Yeah, well, after graduating from AOMA, I was in private practice for a few years, and something just didn't click. So when I decided to find my new path, I reached out to the veteran world and immediately found a reintegration for myself with my culture that I come from, and found a place of service.
That's amazing. So what led you initially into the practice of Chinese medicine? This has been quite a little journey here.
It has been. While I was still on active duty in the Navy, I found a lot of comfort in the Eastern philosophies and religions. I read a lot of Taoism and Buddhism, and eventually just happened to stumble upon the Pacific College of Oriental Medicine in San Diego. I'd never had an acupuncture treatment. I learned more about it, went and checked out the school, and just jumped in with both feet full time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And so when you graduated, you began some programs. You've been working quite hard at this. There's quite a level of influence that you have. Tell us a little bit more detail about the nature of the role that you're in, and how your education in acupuncture and oriental medicine, which you completed here at AOMA, led you into that pathway.
Sure. My first start in helping veterans in the local community is the Austin Vet Center, which is a counseling center. It's part of the VA. They serve combat veterans and veterans who've experienced military sexual trauma. They allowed me the opportunity to come in and volunteer teaching a Tai Chi class once a week. So with everything that I gained from AOMA, that was the one pillar that I found that I could immediately go and start delivering to my community. And from there, I started to build relationships with other veteran service organizations, eventually meeting the Samaritan Center. They wanted acupuncture as part of what they do with their clinical counseling, so I moved in there, and then the program development just kept growing and growing.
Beautiful. So in your role with the government at this point, are you practicing much?
I'm not practicing at all right now. However, the fundamentals, the paradigm through which a Chinese medicine practitioner views the world, elementally, how systems and how all pieces of the systems are all interrelated, has been a key part of me being able to have the influence that I have over some of the state programs. Rather than the typical flow chart and linear way of thinking, I've found that the education that I got in Chinese medicine really expanded into an ability for me to do program development that has surprised a lot of people. Some of the ideas that I come up with in collaboration with other folks, to me, just seem inherent in looking at the world that way and seeing where you would have some sort of deficiency or there'd be too much excess over here, and how things would interrelate goes way beyond just practicing medicine.
Fascinating. Most people who go through a program in acupuncture and oriental medicine may expect that they'll enter into private practice or a group practice, but that they'll be practicing and possibly even teaching. But this opens up doors of possibilities, that the education may lead to forms of employment or service to society that are expanding beyond the walls of that of the practitioner. For example, folks who start herb companies, work within herb companies, and these kinds of things. So I think that this is an extraordinary borderland that you're pushing upon.
Yeah, it is. And in the peer network that I currently am the state director of, It's all volunteerism. And so why would somebody want to volunteer? Why would they want to give their time when they have their own pains? And when we look at the system as a whole and where health comes from, a fundamental piece of that is the interconnectedness that we all have. And one of the biggest downfalls that we have in our current system of healthcare for veterans is the medical model of diagnoses, come in, get a treatment, and then go back home. And what's lacking is that sense of community, that sense of integration, purpose, self-worth that we're helping to build with the peer network. I saw that as a key place, a key facet that was missing in helping to reintegrate veterans and their families back into the community, helping them find a sense of purpose and mission where they could be around people that speak the same language, have been there, done that, and have the same T-shirts. And by seeing that, in essence, deficiency that was there in services and figuring out a way that we could deliver that, it was just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, and I'm very proud to be a part of.
Well, we're certainly proud that you're doing this work. It's really an extraordinary thing.
Thank you.
Acupuncture and Chinese medicine are finding a presence within the military, from the battlefield to outpatient care with local services. Could you speak a little bit about your experiences and views upon those particular areas of practice and how it's being integrated?
Sure. Yeah, military medicine and in the veteran world as well is very traditional, Western traditional, scientific medicine. It's difficult to find a more conservative culture than the military culture. However, because of those battlefield decisions that have to be made, the need to just figure things out, maybe not having the right gear or enough gear, there's also a sense in the military culture of if it works, use it. And there have been a number of us that have come from service and are now practicing. I worked almost exclusively with veterans and their families for 3 years. It's a medicine that they need. It's a medicine that they will trust. But just like with clinical services in the scientific, the Western medicine model, somebody has to bridge that gap. If the individual practitioner that's speaking to a potential patient doesn't know how to connect with that culture, it can be a chasm too far to cross for the individual. It doesn't require translation of Chinese medicine into scientific terms. There's some sort of connection that needs to be made with the individual, that you can identify and empathize with their pain, that you're a skilled practitioner and know how to provide quality treatment that may alleviate some of that pain, and let's just give it a try. And I found that that's been highly effective with the military community when they haven't been able to find any comfort or relief from pills and psychotherapy, or they're not getting as much as they want.
Fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to share with our audience with respect to those who may be interested in pursuing the study of Chinese medicine? What Chinese medicine is, and what might lead a person to this path?
Wow, that's hard. For me, it was my own studies in Eastern philosophy, just self-studies that brought me so much comfort. And being a medic with the Marines, being a Navy corpsman, to find a medicine that was built upon that foundation is what pulled me in. Having never had a treatment, I started studying. I enrolled in school. And it was difficult for me to complete school. When I came to AOMA, I was about a year from graduation, and I couldn't see myself sitting in a clinic practicing. I didn't see myself as actually being in class with my peers. My peers were over in Afghanistan and Iraq. So I had a lot of struggles with that. But thankfully, I had a family member, my mother, that said, stick with it, just finish. If you never practice, at least get the degree. And it was over that year that I actually matured more in the medicine, and I did decide to go into clinical practice. It's an individual journey. It's an individual path. I know, coming from the Western medicine background, none of it made sense to me for probably 2 years, but I just stuck with it, and I'm very grateful that I did, because it's given me a worldview that I never would have had.
Well, we're sure grateful that you're here. Thank you, Sean, Hanna.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you coming by.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you for listening.